Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the Soap Hub Fireside Chat. I'm Diane Brownstein. I'm the editor-in-chief, and we have John J. York here, and he's going to be interviewed by West Coast editor Michael Maloney. They're going to talk for a little bit, and then we will open to your questions. So if you want to ask a question, there is a little thing at the bottom called reactions, and you can raise your hand, and that'll get you in the queue, ready to do it.
Just like grade school.
Yes, exactly. It's great. And we are so happy to have you here as we get ready to celebrate Fathers and Father's Day. Who better than John J.
I don't know about that, but
thank you so much. And
John, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
Good.
We did think of you, everyone, right away, first of all, when we knew Father's Day was coming, because Mac has taken on so many children that were not his, with nothing but out hesitation or anything other than giving of himself 100%. And I guess Robin would have been the first child when Tristan and Finola left at the same time. What are your memories of that story direction for Mac and of working with Kimberly?
I remember loving working with Kimberly. I remember being just very excited to be working on this great show, working with all these incredible people, feeling the support of the fans, which is, very true. But with Kimberly, we were immediately going into this. I mean, she was a young woman, and so now she's having relationships and she's growing up, and she's, I'm dealing with this. What I really remember was the beginning of the HIV storyline and Kimberly telling Mac that she was HIV positive. I remember that scene. I get goosebumps as I'm talking about it, like we just did yesterday. It was, of all the years of training and acting class and school and theater, acting class stuff, it was really the first time, and even working on a television show before with Werewolf and other little, co-stars and guest stars here and there. It was really the first time I felt that scene where it was just the two of us sitting on the couch talking. There were no cameras. I get emotional. There were no crew. There was just the two of us. And even though we rehearsed the scene, as we taped it, it was an incredible experience for me, and I'll never forget it, because I can say that's why I wanted to be an actor, for that feeling. It was really, truly amazing. And then just all the fun, there was a lot of fun involved too, even though there was a lot of high drama with the HIV storyline. There was, the relationship with Christina, and just everything moving forward, so.
Well, let me ask you about the scenes with Robin, because I believe that was just around the time or shortly before the advancements in the cocktail were made that prolong life for so many people and still do today. I mean, at the time, it was people were still learning about HIV and AIDS, even into the mid 90s, and it would have been so easy for Mac to have exploded in anger, because this would have been avoidable, and we told you not to date Stone, and you were too young to be having, and you should have done more research, which was the whole point. One of the main points of the storyline was to educate viewers. Right. Do you remember any specifics about Mac's reaction, or to how forgiving, if that's even the right word, of Stone?
I don't, I can only, as I reflect back, I can only think that it was in the attempt of support and love for Robin and for Stone and for humanity, and not to take that route, not to wag your finger and shake and I told you so, or you should have done this and you should have done that.
Right.
And that it's hard sometimes. So, it's implicit in the writing of the story and in my character. And I'm sure that's probably, when I came on the show, I was this kind of rogue, kind of nefarious type guy. And shortly thereafter, I was all of a sudden a nice guy. And, and I like that. So I think they hopefully, they wrote to maybe my strengths as what they saw in me, and then just let that flow in the writing with my relationship with Robin. And I'm really glad they did. you know. As an actor, your obligation is to play the story that they write. You know, I'm not a writer, I'm not the director, the producer, or anything like that. I'm the actor that gets the script, and here we go. So I would have played it however they would have wanted. I'm glad they
Right.
did. I'm glad they did it the way they did it.
I think the really great writers kind of study the actors or meet them and see what they're like, and when they can, write to certain strengths, while keeping the integrity of the story they want to tell. Maybe not integrity is the right word, but just to map it out, they want to. And you had become a real life dad around the time you got General Hospital. Do I have that right?
I started the show January 14th, and 3 weeks later, my daughter was born in February 9th. So, you know, here we are 33 years later, and I have 3 grandchildren, and it's amazing. It's crazy when you think about it.
Three
Uh,
grandchildren.
3 grandchildren.
I hear it's all of the fun and none of the responsibility.
It's unbelievable. You think you love your kids, you don't even know what love is until you have grandchildren. They
Nice.
they melt your heart. They pull your strings. They know what they can get away with. But it's great. And you do get to, you know, take a break and walk away, but that's
Yeah.
awesome, you know.
Yeah, sure. Hey, absolutely. I'm going to jump around here a little on you. I'm actually going to maybe blow your mind a little bit. I used to work in production on The Bold and the Beautiful.
Okay.
And I was there when you
You
and
were
Todd,
there?
I was there when you and Todd McKee came into screen test for the role of Jake McClane. There were 5 guys, and I remember they were really impressed with you. And but do you ever think, wow, if I'd gotten that instead of this, you know, who knows where things would be?
Um, sometimes. Sometimes I think what would have happened if I had gotten the role of Anthony Edwards in the movie Top Gun, you know, the role
Wow.
of the road, you know, I tested for that. I had tested for the role of, there's my dogs, Brad Pitt in Thelma and Louise. So feature film, all those kind of things. Todd McKee, I tested for, all right, let me get my gun. I'm going to go shoot
We
my
love
dogs.
dogs. We love
Okay.
dogs. Bring them on.
Best. My wife is trying to keep it quiet. They'll be quiet as soon as whoever is there will leave. Anyway, can you honey dog, honey, sweetie, Belle, I love you. Anyway, that would have been something, and I'm glad it
Sure.
didn't happen, because I understand that kind of was a short-lived role. That role maybe was just for a certain amount of time. But I also tested for Peter Reckle, Bo Brady, when I got off the plane in
Oh,
January
wow.
of 1983. 3 months later, I tested for Bo Brady, and I remember watching. We were in the dressing room areas, you know, waiting but the monitors were on, so you can see the actors do the audition. You can either watch or not watch. And I watched Peter Reckle, and I thought, wow, he's really good. You know, he really did a good job. And then it was my turn, and you know, you're doing your stuff, and I leave the set, and I walk down the hall, and I see the producer walking down, and I said, you know, thank you very much for the opportunity. He goes, oh, that was great. Thank you. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. And I left, and I went home to my little cubbyhole 2-bedroom apartment with my other actors and this very seasoned, grizzled actor, Mike Genovese. I told him the story, and I said, and the producer said to me, you know, good luck to you. Good luck in the future. And he goes, and I thought, did he meant good luck on the show or good luck in the future? And he goes, he meant good luck in the future. So I knew I didn't get that part.
I can't imagine it must be like as an actor to try to remarks that are made like that. It would just be,
You hang on pretty much everything. But you know,
yeah.
when General Hospital came along as well, you know, you go through these waves of, I don't want to necessarily say confidence or whatever the feeling is, but you audition a lot, and it gets to the point where it's not giving up, but it's like giving up. I'm just going to go in and do the best I can and be me and present myself in this role and in this, you know, in this audition, and let the cards fall where they may. And that's what I did when I did the TV show Werewolf, and that's what I did when I did General Hospital. Gloria Monty was auditioning an actor right before I was the next actor in to see her. And he must have been in there for 15, 20 minutes. It felt like to me. I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm thinking, this is what an act, or at least what I go through. I'm thinking, she must love him. She's spending so much time with him.
Right.
Why is
Right,
in there
right,
so
right.
long? Must
Right.
love him. And I went in, said hello, said hi to Mark, and started to read. And she said, good, very good. And that was it. I mean, it was 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And like, I didn't want to leave the chair. I didn't want to leave. I was like, no, don't let me go. I'm still here. But I left, and that's what she meant. She meant good, very good. And I was tested and then tested a second time with Paul and got the part.
Paul Satterfield. Yeah.
So thankful. And the rest is history, as they say.
Well, and that's why it's so funny to sometimes when I think of people, when I hear about another role they might have gone in for, because I can't imagine them ever playing anyone else than who I know them as, which is a testament to how great they are in the part.
I guess so. But again, look at Carly. 4 Carlys on our show. So daytime is such a unique industry animal, however you want to put it, because the audience is so forgiving, and they accept us and receive us in their homes every single day, and they have their feelings, very, very strong feelings about what's going on with each and every character, with each and every relationship. They let you know. Most of it, I believe, is sometimes when there's like people saying nasty things about someone, it's about the character, and it's about the writing. It's not about the actor. It's not about the acting. They feel a certain way about the character and the way the character is being evolved in the episodes and in the show. So it's a very unique thing. And I'm so thankful that I fell into this house of soap opera land. I just really love it. It's just the best.
One thing that I'm really glad the show did, it was about a decade ago, pretty much maybe to last month or the month before, there are a lot of storylines that aren't resolved on soaps because shows come back to them later. And one thing that the show did about a decade ago is they really had Felicia like say out loud who she was going to choose, Frisco or Mac. And I thought that was really great because I just thought she made the right choice. I thought that she and I was surprised, but I was pleased, and I was happy that they were doing it, because a lot of times they don't circle back on what the fans are really thinking about. And can you talk about what that was like? And were you reading the scripts going, who's she going to choose? Should he have sang, All I Need instead of Lady of My Heart, or what's going on?
So 10 years ago, was that when he came back and got her pregnant with Georgie, or was that when
No.
was
10 years ago was the revival of the Nurses Ball, and Jack was just back for a limited run, and he performed.
Oh, he came back. When Rick Springfield came back.
Correct. Oh yeah. I mean, the 50th was a blowout. I mean, that was celebrating everything about General Hospital. Yes. And then Felicia at the Nurses Ball, stood up and said, "I choose Mac." So yeah, I remember.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that after Felicia had left me alone with the kids, and then she came back, and we had we had a thing in the courtroom when she came back, and I saw her for the first time after all, right?
Oh, that was after that. Yeah. Or that was before that.
That's what I mean. So yes, I really am thrilled. I mean, honestly, you can say it has to do with the dynamic of the actors. Certain actors are not going to come back to the show. Certain actors are, it just wasn't, feasible, I guess, or reasonable to think that Frisco and Felicia was going to happen again, because Jack wasn't going to be on the show. He came and he did his thing, and he had other things going on in his life, and very successful guy. Sure. But yes, to make that commitment for her to me was great, and I loved it. And we've developed such a friendship, Christina and I, us working together on the show. We've done everything from the high drama and tears running down our face to comedy. and everything in between. So, working with her has just been a pleasure. And, it's interesting because we're close, but we're not, we're close off camera, but not really, we're not friends. We don't hang out. And,
Right.
but I love her to death, and she loves me and cares about me and my family, and I care about her and her family. And we work well together. She oftentimes, we'll do a scene, we'll rehearse it. And right before we tape it, she'll say, I don't know if reading that line right. I think and I'll read it again. And it's like a light bulb that goes off, and it makes the scene so wonderful and so beautiful. I'm so thankful for her for doing that. And we just have so much fun. And a lot of times we work out certain improvisational things that,
Right.
we do, and the producers are very receptive to that, when
Sure.
they see. So yeah, it's great. And for the fans, I think the fans, I will say that there are some diehard Frisco and Felicia fans out there, and they're never going to change their mind. And that's awesome. I think that's
Yes.
great.
But it's all the more testament because for years, even though Jack wasn't on the show, they still kind of had it be unresolved, which is why they were able to
Right.
have a moment where she chose. And so that's why I think it was great that they not only had her choose, but sell the choice that she made, that Mac was just the more reliable, better, because there's the one you date and there's the one you marry,
Right.
and when I say date, I'm just being G-rated. So you know um uh so I thought that was great. And one thing I love about the show is that I think they listen to their fans a lot. And when John Lindstrom reprised Ryan, maybe about 5 years ago, approximately 5, 6, um, one criticism that fans had was that Lucy, Mac, and Felicia were not involved in his return as much as they should be. They leaned into other characters, new characters. So when he came back again, I felt that Mac and Felicia, and Lucy was kind of off in another storyline and wasn't as available, but Mac and Felicia were really involved in this last go around where Ryan returned, even to the point where it was Mac who took him out. What
Right.
did you think of that? And then there was the scenes after with Kevin. What did you think of Mac and Felicia having more involvement with Ryan's last go around?
I think it came full circle. I think it was important. It was absolutely the correct thing to do. Um, Again, there's limitations with so many different, there's a lot of characters on the show, a lot of different stories going on. So, there's the bits and pieces of what they did, but I thought they did it very well. John Lindstrom is an amazing actor, doing both Ron and Kevin. He's an amazing actor. And when we did that reconciliation scene in the restaurant, oh my gosh, I knew my lines for that scene, but I didn't kind of read his last speech, because he had the last speech, but I didn't read it. I just read my line because all that's important is my line. And anyway,
You are not the first actor to tell me that.
yeah, exactly. We're on the set and we're rehearsing it, and I wish they would have filmed it. I can't even talk about it because he read it, and he read it. It was so beautiful, and he killed me. And then there was the debate of a hug, and he, John, his feeling and where he was with Ryan and with Mac and with what was going on, if it's instinctual. So basically we worked it out to where if at the end of the scene, I felt like I wanted to hug him. I felt like I wanted to get up and reach out and embrace him. And the cameras and the director, they were ready for anything that happened at the end of the scene. And I think it worked out very well. And I was very pleased. It was just a very short scene, but it was very impactful. And again, great guy. John and I, we've had a lot of laughs on the show too, smoking cigars, legs, playing Norma and Eve and all the rest of it. But there's a lot of history there.
So refresh my memory, you did hug at the end.
Yes, we did hug at the end.
And it was a hug, not one of those where guys on soaps, when they hug each other, they try to dislodge a piece of crusted bread from the trachea.
No, it was, I got up and I just reached around him and, and reached, and hugged him and embraced him. And shot of me over his shoulder. And yeah, we even had a little, there was some nice comments that, people texted me, or the cat Mark Teschner texted me, which he's, rarely done ever. And it was very nice. It was very nice. Frank was very complimentary about the scene. Fans, I think there was even a blurb in one of the, I think, Soap Opera Digest. So anyway, it was nice. And it's nice to be on the show that long and to have a relationship with someone that he's my brother.
Yeah.
He's not just my actor friend. He's my brother, and I love him very much.
I think circling back on fatherhood, it is interesting, like when actor availability will both, will challenge the writers to come up with some direction to take other characters in. And probably because Robert and Anna did leave, that thrust Mac into a father role. And then also, I guess, maybe Christina took a break from the show as well, so that again, Mac is taking on responsibility of her daughters. And for a long time, fans have said, oh, it'd be nice if Mac had, where he's not the stepdad or uncle or surrogate dad, where he had his child. And it's my understanding now that the audience knows that Cody is Mac's son, but no one else does.
I believe that's correct. I know. Yes. I don't.
Right. So
Mac doesn't know. I know, but Mac doesn't.
Yes. Know. And what's your thoughts on the fact that how do you like working with Josh Kelly? He's a pretty fun guy.
Josh reminds me a lot he reminds me of myself a little bit. He's a hoot and a holler. He's a young guy with nothing but energy and fun. He loves the work. He dives right in. He loves to rehearse. Yep. He's he'll call you on the phone. Come on, let's go over our lines tonight. Before we even go to work. He's a free spirit. He's like all the horses that he trains at the Quartermain stables. He really, truly is a free spirit. It's going to be exciting to see how this plays out and how that will unfold and how that truth will come out. I've often wondered about that, Mac I had a story. I'll just, if I have time, and if you'll indulge me for a second.
Please do.
Even though Josh is, my real son, and they went through the history of Dominique and Mac and the relationship and how that could work out. And I think it plays very well. I had a story in the back of my mind that, let's just say a young girl comes into Port Charles, early 20s, like Josh, whatever age, and is, a bad seed, getting into trouble, doing this, doing that, doing this other stuff. And come to find out, Matt came into town as a mercenary on the ELQ Quartermain on the ship. So I'm a mercenary with a group of pirates, obviously. I was the only one that stayed in Port Charles. Let's just say, for example, the head of that pirate group was a, South African, Nigerian woman, whatever, and we had an affair. And I never knew about it. She had a baby, and it was a girl. And so this young girl comes to town and just juxtapose, is that the word? Or, how ironic that Mac raised two girls that weren't his and had nothing to do with raising a girl that was his. But instead we got that on so we're there without that. It's just complicated.
Right. And
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And, the early 90s is not an era that they normally draw from I believe. Like, the Ice Princess, the Luke and Laura days, Nola, they just tapped into one of her earliest story references. But I can't say that they necessarily go to the Leopold Taub era too often.
Right.
I'm glad they did. Really glad they did.
Again, and Mac's not a perfect dad. I made a mistake with Georgie, and she got into trouble, and it cost her life. Just even Robin, so mistakes were made. It's not like I'm the perfect guy, but I loved my nieces and my stepdaughters. I loved them dearly, and they're
Sure,
wonderful and they're
absolutely.
funny, and who else was going to take care of them? And it was wonderful for me to do so. I love the opportunity. I love that they put that on my back, and away we went. And I'm glad that the fans embraced it.
We know that people sometimes who aren't regular soap watchers, if I tell them what I do, they say, "Oh, that's where those shows where they're always having sex." And I thought, well, yeah, but what soaps are really about, in my opinion, is family.
Yes, I agree. It is family, because it's really the only entertainment genre where the families at home are with our family at General Hospital
Right.
5 days a week, 5 days a week, always. You can always turn us on. It's like picking up the phone. There they are. I remember, and yes, oh, look at how he's changed. He's still there, and I'm so happy. And you only have to watch for a day or two or whatever, even a couple of, minutes, and you realize what's going on, who's where, what's happening here or there. It's an intertwining of families, the audience and our show, and together we make one big family, and it's great. And like in every family, everybody has a comment about something, you know,
For sure. That's for
everybody's
sure.
opinion.
Yeah, that is 100% for sure. But I really do applaud the show for even the slightest script references where something from the past will be referenced. That's a way of saying to your audience, we know you've been watching this whole time. This is giving added credibility to the fact that these people, like, you're peering into this town. The name Port Charles wasn't around on the show, I think, until the mid 70s or so. Like, it was around for a decade. They would just say the town, I'm going into the city.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and once they gave it a name and they just established it as it's this world you want to live in and you're happy to visit. So no, I'm a big fan of the genre, and there's nothing like it when they do it right.
Yep. I think,
Um,
Frank. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I was just
no,
going
no,
to
I
say,
was just gonna say,
I want to say Frank has a lot to do with that. He's when Frank took over, it was very important to him to, build on the history of the show as well as build toward the future of the show, and different characters, different relationships, trying to tap into everything. But he's a stickler for the minutest detail, whether it's storyline, whether it's the set, whether it's the a performance in a scene, a line delivery. Um, I remember it was just a couple of weeks. We were on. He normally we would do a scene, and if we're doing a scene in the hub, they would shoot the two actors in the hub, talking together, and then they cut to the elevator, and there's two actors talking at the elevator. So
right,
Matt and Alicia came off the elevator in a scene, and we were doing our scene, and then they cut to the hub. But Frank said, "No, John and Christina, stay there," and he maneuvered the cameras so you could see us in the background. Just to staple that, just to tie that together, to bring that so the audience can feel, oh, all this is happening at the same time. They're there. They're not, they didn't just do their scene and now they're down in their dressing room. They're still there in the hospital while this is going on over here. And even though they can't hear it. And there was comments about that. I remember seeing people saying how it was so nice to see that kind of connection and, building in the show. It's small, and if you're not paying attention, you don't notice it. But it was very important.
it's small, but it's huge at the same
Yeah.
time because you feel, like I said, you tune into General Hospital and you are visiting this town. And if you were to go to a town, and I love what soap opera towns and cities are, they're huge when they need to be, and they're very small and intimate when they need to be. And if you were going through a town, you might run into the same person twice on a given day just because you live in the same small town. So
Hmm.
you do have characters that maybe aren't in the same storyline, but someone's in the background or someone crosses through. I don't know what that is, but it's worth its weight in gold.
It's the reality of the moment of trying to really weave it correctly instead of just you know throwing darts. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain,
No,
but it's so important. It's so important.
Jane Elliott said to me when she first came on the show, the writer at the time, a man named Douglas Marland, would write scenes, and this wasn't used in a bad way, but Jane said you would appear as extras or background in other people's scenes to give the feel of a community as you would see it in real life.
Right. Sure. That's it.
That's it in a nutshell. And I applaud Frank for all those little details because they do not go unnoticed.
Fantastic.
I think we might have some questions from attendees now that I've taken all the fun, easy topics, the most memorable
Okay.
ones. We will ask our audience, our attendees to chime in with a question if they have one. I think there's a raise your hand feature.
There is, but I think I wanted you to, oh, you're going to Karen first, and then don't forget there's one in your, that I sent you from somebody else who doesn't want to be on camera, but Karen's here. Go ahead, Karen.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good, Karen. How are you today?
Good. I just want to say, when I met you in our story with Tristan, it was such a great time at the dinner that we had.
Oh, thank
It
you.
was awesome.
A lot of fun. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Tristan's quite a character, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, he's one of my favorites. Love him.
My older brother. He's quite a guy.
He is. I just wanted to say that it was so great to meet you in person.
Well, thanks. I hope to get out to Astoria again, and we'll see you again some other time, I hope.
Yeah, sounds good.
And thanks for watching the show. We love that. We love all you guys, and thank you very much for your viewership.
Oh, no problem. Love watching it. I wish you were on alone, you know?
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. And I have a question I can read here from another Karen, Karen Buchanan, in relation to Asa and Bo.
Yeah.
A two-part question. I can answer the first part, which is about, will new episodes continue during the writer's strike? Yes, they will. Traditionally, soap operas continue to plow through and keep in production. It's not like, other shows that will just come back in November or December now instead of September, October. Soaps are going to keep going, thank goodness. But John, is there an actor who you do not currently work with much on the show that you would like to work with more in the future, or work with in the future?
I don't work a lot with Michael Easton. I'd like to work with Michael Easton. I'm sure there's so many that I don't even, there's some people on the show I don't even know because I'm not there, but enough.
We added them up once and it was like 70 people, not including the babies.
Just
the little kids to the recurring 70 people. That's almost double what other shows have.
So I will say that we just taped some scenes, and I don't believe they've aired yet, with my grandson, James. And it was a hoot. So I really, really, really hope I get to work with that young man a lot more. He was a lot of fun. He's just a cutie patootie. And we had a blast. Did it air? Did those scenes air yet?
I don't think those aired, but I saw that young actor doing scenes with Josh, and he was really good with that kid too.
He's a scene stealer, and it was too much fun. So I hope I get to work with him a lot more. And yeah, whoever comes my way, I actually got to work with Chad Duell in the scenes.
Good.
At finishing up the case, the Ryan Chamberlain case. I think that's what it was, or whatever I was doing there at the house. Or was it what was it? I forget. There's so many things. My Prevagen isn't kicking in very well. So I take this Prevagen and not working. But anyway, I got to work with Chad. A lot of, like you say, we're in scenes and we're there together, but we don't actually speak to each other. But I actually got to talk to him. So
yeah. As being involved with the police force for so long, you were tapped to pop over to the spinoff Port Charles quite often, weren't you? And do police duties there.
Yep, that was a lot of fun. And I actually was able to work on a couple of scenes with Finola on All My Children.
Oh, right, right.
A long time ago, and I flew into New York and worked on All My Children. Just one show, and man, it was in and out, but that was a lot of fun just to see the different sets, where they work, how fast they work. And it's not very different from the way we work, but that was a lot of fun to be able to pop around.
And that, that goes back to what you were saying about, like, that's something the audience was screaming for. Like,
yes.
Okay, get that Anna Devane's in Pine Valley, Pennsylvania, but my God, if Mac and Robin don't go to see her, then it's not going to feel real. It just didn't feel real until then.
And I think there's going to be some other fun, exciting things coming up in the future that I know hasn't aired yet. So, and you're pretty sure you're aware of it. And it may have been on social media about someone that's made an appearance on our show that hasn't aired yet.
I mean, I think Walt Willie's been reported.
That's it. So
he's a hoot.
Boy, that goes back a long way for me. I remember meeting Walt, and he was just the nicest guy in the world. Met him a couple of times. Once at what was it, Soap Fest at Disney World? What was it called?
Oh, Super Soap Weekend.
Super Soap Weekend, yeah. And he's just a great guy. He's a powerful force. You know, when you meet him, he's a powerful force.
Yeah, tall guy too, really tall.
Yeah.
We had another question here. What was it like meeting Tristan for the first time? Were you aware of his iconic status with the show?
Yes. When I first found out I was auditioning for the show, they said they're casting a major role. It's Tristan Rogers' younger brother. And I knew he was an Australian, so I went and I got a dialect tape, an Australian dialect tape at a bookstore, Samuel French.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, don't worry about the accent. You know, it's not that important, but if you could just, hint at it a little bit, that's great. So I did the best I could. And I moved along in the process, the casting process. And then I was tested. And when I was tested, I read with Finola and Tristan. And Tristan, he was my grumpy older brother. There's no doubt about it. He wasn't smooth, he wasn't smoothing out the peanut butter. He was in my face and he was giving me the scene and he was doing his thing and he was coming right at me and it was great. And
yeah.
We fell in love right away. Finola she's like, let's run the scene 100 times. Let's keep doing it. Let's be the best we can possibly be. Tristan was like, rah, 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 and we have so much fun. We've traveled together, as the fans know. And we have so much fun when we travel. He's got a lot of great stories. He's really funny. He's certainly iconic on the show.
And like you, he is very, versed in the world of soap opera. He knows what makes a great soap opera. He's really smart. He says stuff.
Tristan's very smart in the business. He's a writer, a producer, director. So he understands storyline arc. He understands character development. He understands all those things, and sometimes I think it's frustrating because of the amount of people we have on the show. I tell people I do my best work off camera, and then you guys see me on camera and I do some work. But so a lot of the scenes are implied that have taken place off camera and now we're on camera making the story move forward. And he'll get frustrated with that because the fans want to see what's going on off camera, but we just don't have that kind of time for everybody.
It's a tough thing because I've heard some people suggest over the years in the last, I don't know, decade or two, that soap should go to 3 days a week. And I don't think that's the answer. And at the same time, they feel like they have to accelerate stories to keep people interested. But I think there used to be more of a happy medium when you did see every beat played. And I guess the show's got away from that a little bit. And it's to compensate for the fact that people do want everything immediately. They want it right now. And so it must be challenging for them to figure out how much to give, what to play off camera, what not to play.
I'll tell you that soaps have changed over the years. I'm just gonna tap that. Get off. There you are. Okay. Am I back there? I am. I remember watching One Life to Live and General Hospital. And I thought, oh gosh, Judith Light, one of the most phenomenal performers, I've ever watched. The scenes between her and Marco, the scenes between, and on Ryan's Hope, Ron Hale and Delia, Roger and Delia, just some of the scenes, and they were 5, 6, 7, maybe 8-page scenes in those days.
Sure.
We were doing mini plays. And when I joined the show,
Mhm.
that, we had very long scenes with people, and it was not just moments, but experiences. We experienced each other,
Right.
and what was happening. Whatever is happening in time and business and money and production and this, that, and the other thing, and trying to keep, the show on the air. Our show is, we're really down to these, 1, 2, and 3-page scenes, and it's very snappy, and it's trying to move along, trying to move the story, so you're not bored. Not that anybody was bored before, but I don't know that you can have those type of shows with those type of intense, long, drawn out scenes with so many people. So, you got to balance what you want, what you don't want, what's available. I don't understand. Why would 3 days a week be better?
No, I think people
Or
are,
whoever said that, why would they?
it wouldn't, it wouldn't.
We had
Um,
one court date with OJ, and we lost, a ton of audience. So
I
that was
know. That's funny. Okay, I'm getting, Lisa, hi, thanks for joining us.
Lisa.
You have a question?
Hello, hi, Michael. Hi, John.
Hi, Lisa. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Good. First and foremost, happy Father's Day.
Well, thank you very much. I'm the luckiest man in the world.
That is a blessing, and it's fantastic to hear good news like that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get straight to the point. What are your plans for Father's Day?
Probably going to hang out with the kids and go swimming and do whatever they want to do. Maybe we're going to go to the park. Whatever they come over to the house, we go over to their house. I'm very close to my daughter and my grandchildren, and we see them almost every single day. And it's just going to be another day in paradise. We're just going to hang out with the family. And
Great.
every
Will
day's Father's Day for me. It's the best.
Well, that's nice to hear. Well, you have a wonderful weekend and a very happy Father's Day. And thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for those wishes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Lisa. Did we have anyone else who wanted to ask? Debbie, oh wow, I love your color on your wall. It's really great.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Debbie.
John, you're a good sport for doing this. Thank you. We all appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So my question, actually, you were just talking about it a few minutes ago. It's about the history of soaps and the future and how things are different. So, and you mentioned Ryan's Hope and All My Children and so on. So back in the day, there were so many soaps when you started out, and now there are just a few. So I was wondering what your take on it, why things are so different now, why there are so few, like your opinion about that, and how you think the movement of soaps will go on. Like, can it last? What do you think?
I hope it can last.
I hope so too.
It's only going to last with the backing and following of our audience, and their opinion and their strength, really, truly. Some things obviously are kind of out of our hands. It's a business. When I started General Hospital back in 1991, I believe there were at least 3, 6, 9, maybe 10, maybe 11 soap operas on the air. Different shows, a couple of half hours, a lot of hours. And it was filled with daytime, and it was amazing. And the daytime Emmys, it was just very powerful and very strong, and everything was great. Then there was this confluence of stuff that it was, the OJ trial was happening, I believe, if I'm not correct me if I'm wrong, when cable TV was starting. So now you're getting, and there was court TV. So not only is OJ taking up the whole daytime slot, and people had to VCR General Hospital at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, and that kind of got stale after a while. So you lose a certain amount of audience. And now when this show is back on air after the 2.5, 3 months, however long that trial was, we're back on. the audience didn't come because they were so involved with court TV. Where's court TV? Oh, there's a court TV station.
Mhm.
Let's watch that. Oh, there's also CNN. There's 24-hour news. Oh, let's watch that. Oh, let's watch. And now there's just with the internet and your iPhone, and I don't even know how to do all this stuff. I'm really out of my, you guys are all, I'm out of my league with all, you know, I don't keep track. I watch sports and that's it. And maybe kid movies. But I mean, I'm not a Netflix guy. I'm not a Spotify. I'm not a Hulu. Wouldn't even know how to get on Hulu on my TV.
Right.
My
I
wife
have to
likes,
ask my kids, so I don't know. I don't know either.
but you know, and if you think about it, everything is a soap opera.
Mhm.
Game of Thrones is a soap opera.
Mhm.
Got betrayal, deceit, incest, you know, bad guys, good guys. They just got great costumes and great locations. And we got the same thing. The acting's not really any different. It's presented differently, but it's the same style. It's the same format. So it is what it is. And there's so many options for people that hopefully General Hospital is such a strong choice, you know, that people will continue to watch, because you get comedy, you get drama,
Mhm.
you get gosh, you know, everything. You know, I used to say that back in the day when I started and I was having, you know, sleeping with Felicia and other people are sleeping with us. Like, I get out of bed with my wife, go to work and get in bed with someone else's wife.
Right.
But I don't do that anymore. So but I think, you know, because there's just so many different options and so many ways to watch all this stuff, that's going to be what's going to happen. And it's really going to be up to the network, you know, how you're going to be able to watch General Hospital. I was at a fan function and I asked, and someone had mentioned that Hulu, that ABC or General Hospital was on Hulu.
Mhm.
Never kind of knew that or understood that. So I said, how many people watch General Hospital on ABC, you know, on the ABC network?
Mhm.
Like half the room raised their hand. And how many watch it on Hulu? The other half raised their hand.
Mhm.
I was like, wow. So I don't even know how they figure that out. I don't even know how they calculate that or tabulate that, who's watching what numbers are going where, but it's all about eyeballs. You know, it's all about
Mhm.
eyeballs, and
As long as they're watching somewhere.
yeah, and they can sell advertising space. You know, they need to make money, and the show has to be cost efficient. So, but I'll work for free for you guys.
Oh, thanks.
Well, maybe not free. Milk and bread, as my dad would call home. Honey, and she said, milk and bread. So he'd come up with milk and bread. So yeah, that's what I think. I hope soap's around for a while, you know.
Yeah, same. Thanks.
Debbie,
You're
thanks so much. That was a great question.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, guys.
John, I don't know. I didn't know that you were familiar with One Life and Ryan's Hope. I don't know a lot of actors that watched a lot of soap operas before they got on one.
I love
Guys, yeah.
And I watched General Hospital, you know, and actually Alan and Monica, I know Scotty was a favorite character, and his dad, Lee Baldwin, and Gail. And but I really liked Alan and Monica Quartermain. They were trying to kill each other and they hated each other and were chasing each other through the mansion. And, you know, this was happening, that was happening. And it was really great. And it was in the day when I couldn't believe it if I watched the show and someone wasn't on. You know, I was so angry. And then I had to watch another day, you know, the next day. And that's kind of how it got me hooked. And, you know, I watched all my children. I watched the ABC shows. I really didn't watch any of the other soaps, but I was aware of them. But I thought Ryan's Hope was a great show. Actually, I might have auditioned for Ryan's Hope, but it just was one audition for a character. I don't even remember what the character was. But then I would have moved to New York and I wouldn't have met my wife and everything would have been different.
You know, the whole thing about where they still say to this day, it's Monica's house, Alan bought it for her. And the reason that's played today is because it was established back in the day, and Monica wasn't always in the power position financially when she and Alan were at odds. So they established that he gave her the house, which allowed her to be in a power position. So it is kind of interesting that something so well thought out back then still resonates today, which is what we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
Did we have another question? Someone want to jump
We
in?
did, but she's been having problems going, oh, well, and Tony is now going to do it. Let's get Tony in the spotlight.
Tony,
Hi,
Tony, what are
John.
you
Hi,
doing,
Michael.
Tony?
I don't really have a lot to say, John. You know I love you.
I'm giving you a big hug right now.
I know, I miss you.
Miss you too.
And you are such a fan favorite. And I want to know, first of all, you're going to show up for the GH weekend. Secondly, does our opinion really count with Frank and social media and all that good stuff?
I believe it does. I believe he has to consider everybody and everything. You know, he has things that he has to consider that the fans, you know, really aren't aware of, you know, in terms of the business of the show, the money that it costs to make the show.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell the actors everything that's on his plate. You know, he's got a lot of things that he has to consider. There's nobody working harder for General Hospital than Frank. Nobody cares more about the show than Frank Valentini. I swear on my life that that's true. So he really does. What else? What was the other question? See, Prevagen.
Yeah.
fan
Go
club
ahead,
weekend.
Michael.
Going to fan club weekend.
Oh, am I going to fan club weekend? I don't know. I don't live in California anymore.
You
So
don't?
I don't. I
Oh,
live in the state.
I guess we have to go on the road to see you then.
Exactly. So I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
All right. Well, you were talking about Super Soap weekends, and that was fun at Disneyland. I would love to see that come back. So
Yeah.
it would be fun.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford Disneyland any other way.
Hey, did they have the daytime Emmys? Because that's the last time I think I saw you, wasn't it? The daytime Emmys?
Yeah, a couple years ago, daytime Emmys. Yeah, they have not had them.
Is it because of I think it's because of the writer's strike, right?
Yeah, it's because of the writer's strike. They're looking at having them later this year, and we hope that because I believe John Lindstrom's nominated for
Supporting.
Yeah.
Why supporting? He's the lead actor. He's the best.
you know, they need to have a new category, something like lead, supporting, and then something like, I don't know, featured, where you're in between lead and supporting or something, just to spread the wealth. But I agree, supporting for years has been kind of leftover lead, and true supporting people, you know, don't necessarily get in. But you know, as long as good people win.
They need to have a category, best work off camera, and I'd win.
Best fan friendly is you. Definitely.
Okay.
You win that.
So much. Thank you
Yes.
so much. So much.
Miss
It's so
you.
much fun with everybody.
Yeah.
Miss you, sweetheart.
All right.
You see Kathy often?
I do. Today's her birthday, so I'm going to see her
Happy
tomorrow. We're
birthday,
going to a concert.
Kathy. Oh my goodness. Wish her a happy birthday for me, please.
I sure will. I sure
Okay.
will.
Oh, that's so perfect.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Tony.
Sure, Michael.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
And now we have
We
Linda.
have me.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. Where are you?
I am in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, and you look like you're in a spaceship or something.
I look like I'm in a spaceship because I have 4 dogs and they parade around behind me, so I blurred everything.
Oh, okay. That's perfect.
That keeps everything. When you were talking about the Emmys, I remember they used to have one for Scene Stealer, and it was for people like Edward Quartermain, where they didn't necessarily have, like you said, they're not necessarily the lead actor, but they're not really supporting either. And I always thought that was kind of a cool category.
Yeah. And
My,
go ahead.
I was going to say it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. But when my late mother, we used to watch General Hospital together every once in a while, like every day. And when you first came on and you had scenes with Anna, it just absolutely blew her mind. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but it always involved food. And you were either throwing food at each other or shoving food at each other. I don't know if you remember that or not, but Mom basically watched that just because she wanted to see how much food Anna would eat and how much food would be thrown around or shoved in your face or whatever.
Well, that's great. I don't remember that. I would love to see those scenes again so I could remember all that. I do remember working with Finola, Anna, a lot.
Right.
We had a great time. It's interesting when you talk about food on the show,
Right.
there are people and there are it's interesting because you see people nibble, but not a lot of people eat, because once you put a big mouthful of food in you,
You can't
the
talk.
person says their lines and now it's your turn to talk and you got a mouthful of food.
Right.
So they don't want to, the producers don't want to see me chewing and swallowing my food and then doing my line. You kind of have to take a little nibble and make it look like you're eating and you're in the middle of a meal. And it's a very interesting thing about what we do is those food scenes.
You get
Yeah,
to play
and
with
The biggest scene stealer on our show, I would say, is Ken Schreiner. He's Scotty Baldwin. He's the funniest guy around.
he sure
he
is.
says he's quitting.
Yeah, he's not quitting. He's not going nowhere.
Yeah, I don't think anybody believes that at all, but he says it every year.
Tell him how much you love him, and he'll love you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sweetheart. Take care of those dogs.
Did we
Always.
have any other questions before we brought this entertaining hour to a close? I've had a wonderful time. Did
too.
anyone else have a question that they'd like to ask John?
You guys like my haircut? I just got my haircut.
Yes.
That's great.
I think we're pretty good. We could take everybody off of mute
you
and
could.
everyone can do a
Yep.
free for all to say thank you.
Yes, John, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
by. This was a pleasure. We will.
Love it.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
everybody, for
Happy
being
Father's Day.
One with the
Father's
turkey.
Thank you. Miss you, John.
Happy Father's Day.
Father's
Thank
Day.
you very much. And happy Father's
Thank
Day
you.
to all the fathers out there.
All right, we
Take
love
care.
you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.